Welcome everybody to the webinar. This is Debbie Sassen. I am a financial planner and money coach. Finance has been my space for over 30 years, and I'm really excited to share what I have with you this morning. Let me share with you in the beginning why I chose to focus this webinar specifically on women. And there is a man in the room. You're welcome, obviously, to share this information with your husbands, with your brothers, with your uncles, with your sons. But in particular, women, we've made so much progress in the last 50, 60, 70 years. We hold senior professional and academic positions. We run our own businesses. Many of us in the room today are small business owners. And we have advanced so much. However, when it comes to the management of our personal finances, we often remain stuck in the past. And what's fascinating is that even when we get into a serious relationship, we get married, we have a significant other, a partner, whatever, we often cede control of our finances to our partners. We may continue to manage the monthly budget and we know where to shop for the cheapest price on laundry detergent and ketchup, but when it comes to those longer term planning issues, investing and growing wealth, we often push that off to somebody else. We lack role models. Most of us don't have moms or grandmothers who did this kind of work. That was, again, the sort of old model of managing money. And so as a result, we lack knowledge, we don't understand investments, or we haven't taken the time to understand investments. And the jargon can be very discomforting, disquieting, because the terms seem so difficult. And the financial industry publishes everything with these percentages and these initials, and we don't know what it means. So as a result, we lack confidence. And even among our women friends, we don't talk about these bigger types of money issues. We might talk again about where to buy diapers, cheaply in our neighborhood, but investing and growing wealth isn't part of our day-to-day conversation with our friends. Okay, women also really need to talk about this and understand it and connect with money and investing and building wealth, because we're usually the ones who are going to spend time out of the workplace to care for our children. Also, when it comes to our parents, if you have aging parents or you have parents who are alive and in the future you might be in that situation, it often requires taking time out of work. And so we end up with an earning gap. We'll lose income for a certain period of time, and that will impact our future and the amount of wealth we can build up. Unfortunately, a wage gap still exists pretty much all over the world, and men and women who are working the same jobs often get paid different salaries. Part of that has to do with the negotiation skills that women do or don't bring to the table, and a lot of it does happen to be because of bias in the workplace. But because women have a longer life expectancy than men, statistically speaking, if you're married, you're going to outlive your partner. And then, of course, there are the issues of divorce and women who never get married but remain single. And the fact of the matter is that we're going to have to manage money alone at some point during our lifetimes, and we're going to have to stretch our money further than most men. Okay, so if you're joining me today, you're probably a woman, as I've seen, and as I said, we do have one man on the call. You might feel overwhelmed by money investing, as I've already talked about, those terms that are bandied about seemingly very easily in the media and in advertising, but you just don't understand it because none of us got an education as we were growing up. Our parents probably didn't talk about it. If they did, it might have been an uncomfortable kind of conversation, and maybe there were fights around money in our house, so we sort of internalized this message that, no, I don't want to deal with money. So money is not our wheelhouse, and we're going to leave it to somebody else, or we want to get taken care of by our man, which is, a common characteristic of women. Okay, but you're ready to start, even if you don't know how to get started with investing. It's something that's important to you. You might think that you need a big chunk of money to get started, but I'm hopeful that you're going to embrace and adopt the view that you don't need a lot of money to get started. You might also be running your own business. I certainly see a lot of women on the call who are small business owners. So your income fluctuates, and maybe your expenses do as well, and you're not sure how you can even make it work, because how can you set aside money for investing when you don't know if you can feed your family or plug money back into your business? You might be afraid of making mistakes, and that involves both a loss of money and maybe even some shame or embarrassment if you do something stupid with your money, which I did, and I feel very open, comfortable talking about it now, and we'll talk about that in a little bit later. But you might want some more understanding and control of your money, and that's part of why you're here. But many of us are also stretched for time, and I like to make investing, easy peasy, very simplified, so that you can actually build wealth over time. So Hannah Rosenfelder put a comment in the chat box that the decision to stay home with kids is more expensive than just missing a few years of income. You're missing the income and you're missing the contributions to your pension account. I'm not saying that that is a wrong decision, but it has a financial impact, and we need to be able to account for that. So thank you very much for writing about that, Hannah. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about me. Here you go. This is my family, but this is an old picture. It's about 11 months old at my son's bar mitzvah last year. I'm a mom of 8 kids, and we're now up to 7 grandchildren. So 3 grandsons are missing from this picture, and my son is getting married next month, God willing. So we're going to add another daughter-in-law to our family. So I understand lack of time, I understand families, and I also understand money. This is what I like to do in my free time. I'm a bit of a daredevil. I like to go hiking. This is me in Yosemite National Park in the United States last summer, 8,000 feet up in the air and standing on the edge of a cliff. But I don't do silly things with my personal self, because I do have that family that I love and care about. And here's what I do on a day-to-day basis. I help smart women to build wealth. That's actually the title of a course that I've run, a 6-month course that I ran in 2017 and 2018. At the moment, I'm not running it because I'm revamping that course to make it less expensive and more accessible to more women over time. But as I said at the beginning, I have over 30 years of experience in finances, working on a trading floor on Wall Street, working as a portfolio manager at the Bank of Israel here, that's our central bank, and then also as an economist at the Bank of Israel. And 11 years ago, I transitioned to personal financial planning, partly as a result of my growing family size, because I couldn't keep getting on a bus and going to work in Jerusalem every day, and also part of the money mistakes that I made. And I realized that as a financial professional, if I could make mistakes with money, then, and so could a lot of people. They're either not connected, don't understand, but I at least had that lingo and that jargon that many people find off-putting, and I still made some stupid mistakes. So that's why I'm here, to help you learn, grow, feel more confident, and feel more empowered about your money. And Yael is asking about the length of the webinar, about an hour, but I don't want to keep you over time. Okay, so let's talk about what exactly is investing. And this is the most technical slide of the day. Okay, investing is committing resources to an endeavor or a thing in the expectation of having a positive return. And let's take it away from money and stocks and bonds. When we commit, for example, to get a university education, right? I mean, although that does cost, we commit our time and our energies. Let's say that you want to become a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, something like that. This endeavor, this thing is your degree. And the expectation is that you're going to be able to get a good job at the end of it all and have a positive return on your investment of time, energy, and money. But it can also be on a much smaller scale. Let's say you just want to chill out on the couch and read a book, right? You invest your time into reading, and the expectation is you're going to have some enjoyment from this book. So investing is a term, and we probably heard it, oh, I'm going to invest some time, I'm going to invest some energy. We understand that in a broader concept. Let's bring it down now to what it means for money. So we're going to commit some of our money, those are our resources, to financial assets with the expectation that the money is going to grow in the long term. Okay? Expectation is highlighted here because there is an element of risk with investing. I'm sure that, almost everybody on the call has heard that, stock prices fluctuate, property prices fluctuate, bonds, if you don't know what those are, we're hopeful. We expect that in the long term, our investments are going to increase in value and rise in value. But investing is different from savings. Investing is long term. That means you need to be able to sit with your investments for 5 to 10 years or even more. Because sometimes it takes time. We're not looking for a quick fix on our money. We're not looking for a quick return, but we're going to let it grow and simmer and have those returns over a long period of time, kind of like a nice stew cooking in a pot that you don't just put a bunch of vegetables and water in the pot and expect to eat it straight away. You're going to let it simmer, let all of the flavors meld together, and then you're going to have this nice, warming, nutritious soup. That's different from savings. Savings is what I say is what you need to keep your money safe. So if you need to pay for the insurance for your car for the year, or you need to pay for a wedding in a month for your son, you want to send your kids to college, or you want to put a down payment on a house in a year or two, that's not money that you want to put into investing. That's money that you want to keep safe in savings. You might not get a huge return on it, especially today where interest rates all over the Western world are very, very close to zero. You might only earn a couple cents on the dollar for keeping your money in safe savings for 6 months to a year, but you can feel really, really confident that you're not going to lose any money. Investing, as I said, has an expectation of growth, but there are risks involved. Okay, so I asked before who has started investing, and a few people put some comments into the chat box. If anybody wants to add some more comments that you've started investing, whether it's through mutual funds or property, go ahead and do that. I am going to move on to the next slide. Okay, why do we find investing difficult? Well, we're really worried that maybe we're going to mess up and we're going to lose money, and we're not going to be able to take care of all of those expenses that we have in the future. Or, so we don't get started because we're so worried about losing money. All right, we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk today about what I call our present self versus our future self dilemma. And investing is very much how we take care of our future selves. And there's a missing link in this sort of present self, future self dynamic. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to discuss how we can actually make investing work for you. Okay, so why don't you guys join me and tell me, why do you think it's difficult to start investing and to stay the course? And go ahead, and I just want to hear from you before I go on to the next slide. Feel free to type into the chat box why you find investing difficult, or if you've already invested, why do you think that it's difficult for long term? Okay, so Janice says that risk aversion, laziness, okay, lack of knowledge, fear of failure. Great. Good reasons. You don't know what the best option is for you. Perfect. And you have no idea what's worth investing in. Wonderful. Okay, these are all great reasons. There's always more pressing things to do. Oh boy, yep. Investing always gets pushed to the bottom of our to-do list, because definitely taking time to learn about investing, this is great. Okay, you guys are totally with it, and you don't know enough yet. Don, that's perfect. I love that you put that in there. We're going to address what you said later. Wonderful. Okay, if you have any more thoughts, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm going to move on. Okay, this is what I call the 6 big barriers to investing, right? All the jargon and the different best investment choices, it's overwhelming. Or as like Don said, you don't know enough yet. Or Tali says you haven't taken the time to learn about it, right? There's a lot to learn. Or at least the financial industry makes us think that there's a lot to learn. Tamar adds the right loss from investments previously, so that's definitely very off-putting, because you don't want to be in that situation again. All right, so there's so much to learn, and so we don't get on with it. Nobody put here that they need to make some more money first or they don't have enough to get started. This is often a reason that people don't start. They think that they need to make their business grow even more. They need to redo their, renovate their kitchen or their house or buy new couches, whatever it is. They don't get started because they don't think they have enough money. All right. And you've maybe got some big expenses coming up, like a wedding, as I said. You don't know whom to trust. Right. And Sally just put into the chat box that she thought it was like gambling. Right. So investing isn't gambling. Some people actually like to gamble and use it as a way to have some excitement and entertainment in their life. But investing isn't gambling at all. As I said in the, a few slides ago, it's a way you take your money, your resources, you invest it in a certain thing or endeavor with the expectation of having a positive return on the end. Okay, right, you might think that you need a lot of money to get started, which Debbie put into the chat box. Right, these are all reasons that people don't get started. For a lot of people, it feels very uncomfortable and very intimidating. For women in particular, we feel like it's a man's world. And I think that the advertising and media and financial industry has made us feel like that because we always see advertisements of men sitting behind these heavy, thick mahogany desks, and it looks very imposing and very intimidating. And we're like, that's not for me. I'm not going to deal with that. Okay, fear of losing money, which we've already talked about, and tax issues I have here in brackets because those of us who are on the call and we are subject to 2 different tax regimes, it sometimes makes it so confusing that we're just like, we're not going to get started. All right. So today we're going to talk about what I think is really the biggest barrier. And once you get that in place, I think it solves or has the potential to solve all the other issues. Okay, so here's number 1. I started talking about this just now. The jargon, all the investment choices, it's overwhelming and you don't know whom to trust. And I really believe that the financial industry is interested in keeping things complicated and intimidating. There is, this sort of aura that's put around investing that it has to be complicated, that it is complicated, and only certain professionals have access to the key that's going to unlock the door, and only if you work through them and pay them, high fees, can you actually have access to sound investments. But I do believe very strongly that with a little bit of financial literacy and knowledge and understanding and dedicating, as I said at the bottom here of the slide, 5 to 10 minutes a day, learning something about finances, learning something about investments, that's going to help you reduce the stress and anxiety, that feeling that you don't understand all the things about money, about investing, and that's going to help you significantly increase your financial confidence. I say frequently that investing isn't rocket science. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't need to be. There's some beautiful ways that you can put your money to work for you, that you can invest it in this endeavor or thing with the expectation of good returns without making it complicated. We don't have to buy into what the financial industry makes us want to think, that it is complicated. So, but the real challenge is in our busy lives is setting aside 5 to 10 minutes a day to learn something and to make it a commitment to learn something. Because if you're not going to schedule that into your calendar, just like you need to schedule in when you're going to go shopping or when you're going to do the laundry, like it's not going to happen. It's always going to go to the bottom of the list because we're going to spend our life fighting other fires. And we'll talk about why at the later on in the webinar, why it needs to be part of our priority list. Okay, and as I write here, do you want to hold on to these feelings of anxiety and overwhelm about money, or would you prefer to establish a routine where you consistently devote time to learning about investing in small bite-sized morsels, which will enable you to increase your financial confidence, and you'll feel like you know what's going on. And even if you decide at the end of the day or at the end of the webinar that it makes sense for you to hire a professional to manage your money on your behalf, and there are things I don't want to do in my life. I don't want to like deal with the plumbing in my house, right? You'll be able to have a conversation of maybe not equals, like, you know, but you'll be able to have a confident, empowered conversation. And so Hannah asks, how does one learn about this stuff? Reading what? Okay, so I'm going to give you some options at the end of the webinar, okay? And that should be able to help you. All right. All right, so that's number one, is being able to set aside money and set aside time, sorry, to learn about this stuff. Han, I also want to add one other point, and that is, like anything in life, like if you want to learn how to play the piano, if you want to become an Olympic athlete, if you want to just run a 10K, you don't have to become an Olympic athlete. You don't do it just once. You don't sit down in front of the piano and learn how to do the scales and the next day you're playing Mozart. It is that consistent, steady action every single day. And you don't have to play scales for an hour a day. You don't even have to read something about money every single day for an hour. But little bits at a time chip away at that barrier that we have, that impasse that we have. And that enables you to learn more and to do more and feel like you have that financial literacy piece under your belt and that you can do it. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. And that is, if you feel like you don't earn enough money to get started, so investing is something, it's similar to what I was just talking about, right? Investing is how you can grow your money and ensure that you can also take care of your future self. So we have our income coming in that covers our current needs for spending for our family, but we also have money that we need to set aside to take care of our future selves. And if you start setting aside small amounts of money, and again, and you do this consistently every single day, and I even made this, you know, suggestion, set aside $1 a day. The important point is that you are going to set aside $1 today and $1 tomorrow and $1 the next day and the next day and the next day, and you get yourself established into a regular routine of setting aside money, putting it in investments, and taking care of your future self. And it's fascinating how when you do this little bits of things, they actually build up to great amounts of money over time. In my course, Smart Women Build Wealth, which I ran a couple of years ago, one of the students in the class said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to set aside $2 a day. And she did it. She said, I'm going to invest in $2 and $2 and $2. And after a certain amount of time, she increased it to $3 a day. And after a certain amount of time, she increased it to $5 a day. And the last time I touched base with her, she was actually setting aside $25 a day for investments. And that's amazing what establishing small, consistent habits can do for you, because once you make that commitment to set aside money for investments, it's amazing how other things in your life end up lower on your priority list. All of a sudden you're like, oh, this is amazing. I can actually do this. And now I don't need to buy a coffee out. I'm going to go and take that money and I'm going to put it into my investment funds. And oh, I don't need to buy another pair of shoes. I can take that money and I can put it into my investments. All right. So Debbie is asking in the chat box that if you're putting away money into your pensions, is it still a good idea to put away additional funds for investment? That's a great question. You have to maybe do a little bit of financial planning and seeing when do you need your money. And if you're saving now and investing now specifically for your retirement, it's very likely that what you have in your pensions and other employer-sponsored types of investments and your government, national security, social security, whatever, it's very likely that it's not going to be enough to carry you through your retirement, especially because of our longevity as women and healthcare costs. As we age, healthcare is a serious financial burden. What can I say? Healthcare, assisted living facilities, and this is a reality. This is a reality that many of us are going to face. 6 out of 10 people, maybe even 7 out of 10 people are going to need some type of nursing care as they age, or they're going to need to be put into an assisted living facility. And those facilities don't come cheap. So this is part of a bigger discussion, Debbie, about what sort of insurances you have for long-term nursing care, and what you might be able to expect. So I would love to, if you want to reach out to me privately afterwards, we can talk about it. But at the moment, I'm going to move on to the next slide. And if you have a pension that's been going for over 30 years, it's very likely, especially in Israel, if you have an older bituach menahalim policy, that you have great conditions, and it actually might be enough for you. All right, let's go on to the next slide, which is that it's important wherever you are in your financial journey right now that you establish those consistent financial habits so that your future self is not going to be forsaken while you're busy taking care of your present self. And we need to realize this, as I just said, with longevity and with the cost of nursing care, with the cost of assisted living facilities, we need to worry about this for ourselves, and also if you have kids, for your children. What I often hear from people is they do not want to become a financial burden to our children. And as you're making your money choices and money decisions in the present, it's important to think about the future. And that's part of the missing link that we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. And so Hannah asks, how is that even possible? A lot of times it has to do with the choices that you're making today, and not all, we can't solve all the choices, especially not in this call. Sometimes it means that you need to work to reduce your spending in whatever ways you can. Often it means you need to figure out ways to increase your income, because our expenses can only be reduced to a certain level before we're really living in deprivation. And we might be able to do that for a short period of time. You could eat rice and beans for 3 months, 6 months. If it was, if you're living through the Great Depression or you're living through the Holocaust, you might be able to live on nothing or nothingness for a long period of time. But most of us, especially in this day and age where we're used to more abundance and better quality of life, the way to supercharge our investments and supercharge the money that we're going to have for the future is to find ways to increase our income. Okay? All right. Let's talk about the third barrier, by the way, there are a few barriers that I put together, especially in the first slide. There were several of them. All right. Your income fluctuates and you have big expenses coming up. Okay. This is a very common situation that I work with personally as a small business owner, and I meet up with it often with my clients. But anybody can have big expenses like a wedding coming up. Again, investing is how you grow your money for the future. It's how you take care of your future self. If you have fluctuating income, what you need to do is figure out how to manage that within what I call, in a sort of financial term, your cash management system, but it's basically a budget or your spending plan. Let's use the example of somebody who is a real estate agent. She might only sell, let's say, 3 or 4 properties a year, right? And you're going to make very large, you can have a very large cash flow those 3 or 4 times that you sell a property. So if you don't sell a big property every month, you're going to have to figure out how to take that large influx of money. Let's say you sell a property, you get paid January, April, July, October. We're going to make it super easy. When you get paid in January, you're going to have to take that money and divide it up into 3, because you're not going to have another big influx of money until April. And once your April sale, commissions come in, you're going to have to plan that out for the next 3 years. And it's not easy, because we get into this excitement of like, oh, wow, I have a lot of money and now I can go out and buy all of those things. And I've worked with folks in commercial property, and the commissions are huge, but they don't happen every month, and they sometimes don't even happen every year. So it becomes a real challenge, but you've got to do that. Is you have to take money when you have this fluctuating income and make sure to space it out. You have to treat your personal life like a business, and make sure that you take and pay yourself like a monthly salary. That's part of your personal cash management system. But you can't abandon your future self because you take this influx of money and you divide it up over the year. You also have to skim some of that money off the top. There's a term called pay yourself first, and pay yourself is taking the money and putting it away so that your future self also has money that she or he is going to be able to use. And we have to incorporate those investing decisions in our day-to-day budgeting, spending planning, money planning, or what I also call your cash management system. You have to do it, because if you're not going to do it now, you're going to get to 50, 60, or 70 and you won't have taken care of it, and that's not the time to start investing. Investing, as I said in the very beginning, it takes time. 5, 10, and sometimes more years for your money to grow and to develop and to give you that tremendous wealth that you're going to need in the future. Okay, and also when it comes to those big expenses that you have coming up, you don't want to have to tap into your investments for those short-term expenses. I don't want to have to take money out of my investments to pay for my son's wedding next month. The stock market was down October, November, December. It's gone up a little bit now in January, but I don't want to sell my investments when the price has dropped. I'd like to let them continue to grow for the long term. And as I approach my pension age, then I will be able to create a plan for my investments at that time to slowly take the money out when I've continued to grow my wealth. I don't want to take out from my long-term investments money that I need for my short-term expenses. So you need to make sure within your cash management system is that you have money that you put aside for a rainy day. It's called your emergency fund, or I call it your safety net savings, and that you also have money that you put into savings for your regular expenses. If you have a summer holiday that you've planned, make sure that during the winter months, you're putting little bits of money away so that you have money for the summer. If you know that you have to pay for your home insurance, we just got our bill at the end of last week for our contents insurance. I need to make sure that I have money set aside in savings so that I can pay for that bill. Otherwise, we're always going to be living paycheck to paycheck. You're going to be on that hamster wheel of going around and around and around, and you're not going to have money set aside for those big things that you need, both during the current calendar year and in the long term. Okay. Chaya Bluma asks, you're past 50, this isn't the time to start investing. Actually, I'm also past 50, and I believe that even in your 50s, you need to invest your money for the future, because when you retire at 65 or 68 or whatever time it is, you're not going to take money out of your investments on day one of your retirement. You're going to continue needing money when you're 70 and when you're 75 and when you're 85 and 90 and, God willing, to 120. So your money needs to continue growing. You need to have money working for you for that future self that's also going to need money. That future self that will also need health care, maybe nursing care, maybe living and assisted living facility. All right, another barrier is that you're afraid of losing money, you're afraid of making money mistakes, and you're afraid of looking dumb. So here's the thing, that we learn by making mistakes and self-correcting. Somehow it's okay for babies when they start feeding themselves to miss their mouth and to end up with, applesauce all over their face and all over their chin. And we take pictures and it looks really cute. And we clap when they start walking and they stand up and then they fall on the floor and they get up again and they take a step and we're clapping, we're so excited. That's wonderful for a baby. And we have to treat ourselves with the same excitement and the same joy that that we do with a little baby. I want to make it okay for you to make mistakes with your investing. Now, if you have $150,000, if you have $500,000, whatever it is, you've gotten an inheritance, you've sold a property, you've gotten a divorce, and you have a divorce settlement, I'm not suggesting that you take a large windfall and put it into some harebrained investment, and then we're going to clap for you when that goes bust. But I am allowing you to make mistakes with your money, because that's the way we learn. So if you start small and you dip your toes in and you start figuring it out, that's the way you learn. You have to take action even before you're ready to start. And I think it was Dawn who put it in the very beginning, I'm not sure, that you think you need to learn all the things. What I want to suggest and recommend and even challenge you is that you've got to start even before you're ready, because unless you get some skin in the game, you're going to keep putting it off. You're going to keep putting it to the bottom of your to-do list. But once you actually start investing and start small, then you are going to be excited. And well, maybe excited is too strong a word, but you're going to be encouraged to learn some more and to figure out this thing, this amorphous thing that I call investing. I like to say that you're not going to learn to swim by sitting on the side of the pool in a lounge chair, but I think that the analogy or the metaphor can even be made stronger than that. Let's say you're going to buy a refrigerator, right? You don't need to figure out everything there is about refrigerators and how a refrigerator has been wired, and and so that you know how the intestines of that refrigerator work. You know that you have some basic things that you want with the refrigerator, whether you want the freezer on the top or the bottom, you want a side-by-side, do you want an ice maker? Some basic things that are requirements for you for your refrigerator. And then you might look for a couple of reviews online. You might ask a couple of your friends, what refrigerator do you own? And then you're going to go and you're going to buy a refrigerator. And it might last for 4 years, might last for 10 years, whatever. You might have made a dumb mistake with your refrigerator, but it's not the end of the world. You can go ahead and you can do the same, I believe, with small investments. Of course, if you're going to go and you're going to buy a house, that's a much bigger investment, and you're going to have to figure out the neighborhood. You're going to have to figure out the educational system. If you've got kids that need to learn, you have to figure out if you want to live on 1 level or 2 stories. Do you want an apartment? Do you want a garden? You want to call an appraiser to see what the quality of the house is. There are much bigger decisions, and there's a bigger quote-unquote investment of your time when you are making a bigger choice, when you're making a bigger investment in a house. And so if you have that big windfall that I mentioned, yeah, you need to spend some time and some energy, learning and figuring out investing so that you can have an intelligent conversation. But if you start small, it's kind of like buying that refrigerator. You don't need to know all the things, and you don't need to know how that refrigerator is wired, as long as it's going to keep your food cold. Okay, so let's talk about money mistakes. And I really believe that if we, women in particular, would talk about our money mistakes, then we can dissolve the shame that's around it. And I love this quote by Brene Brown, who wrote Daring Greatly and a host of other books. Shame cannot survive being spoken. It cannot survive empathy. And that's part of the reason why I talk very openly about the fact that I made a really stupid money mistake. I lost $50,000 on a harebrained investment, thinking that I knew what was going on, and understanding and taking a hot tip that I really should not have taken. And I kept it close to my heart for a long time, but I realized that if, as a financial professional working on Wall Street, I could do something really stupid like that, other people who probably know less than I do about, or did at that time, about the financial markets, can also make stupid money mistakes, and it's okay. So Joyce is asking, what percentage is considered small to risk to make mistakes? Listen, we lose, Joyce, we lose money all the time on stupid and silly things that we buy. Again, you might buy a pair of shoes and you thought that you would take it home and you'd be able to stretch it out and it would be comfortable, and then it sat in your closet and you never wore it more than twice. I've certainly done that. Everybody raise hands if you've ever bought any clothes or any shoes that you've never worn, or that you've only worn once or twice, right? We have a grrr in the chat box. You know what? We do stupid things with our money all the time. We just don't call it investing, and we don't call it losing money. So is it $100? Is it $1,000? Set some money aside for yourself based on what your income level is, and say, this is what I'm willing to do to learn something. You know, people buy books that they never read. I can certainly look around my little office here and see a bunch of books that I didn't ever read from cover to cover. There's so many ways. Look around your kitchen. How many things are sitting in your kitchen that you thought was just the great slicer dicer thing that you had to have in your kitchen, and you use them once or twice and they didn't work? Give yourself the same grace with your money and with your investing, because again, this is the way that you take care of your future self. This is the way that you build safety and security for yourself and for your family. It's really okay, and we have to make it okay. And then if women would open up and have this conversation with other women, like, I did something really dumb and I made a harebrained investment. Look at what Dawn wrote, right? And then your friend will be like, oh my gosh, I did too. While I'm on the topic, I'm just going to share with you, if anybody knows the work of, okay, her name is all of a sudden leaving my mind. She's the Janine Roth. Janine Roth is an emotional eating coach, very, very well known. What a lot of people don't know about Janine is that she lost all of her money to Madoff in the last financial crisis. All of her wealth was lost because she was so disconnected with her money that anytime she earned something, she sent it away to this investment manager who had promised her this 12% return, and she didn't even look at what was going on with it. She didn't want to know, and she was totally disconnected from her money, and she lost everything. And Janine writes about this in her book called Lost and Found, that most people don't know about because Janine is most well known for her book, Women, Food, and God. Anyway, she, because of her publishing her book, she made all of her money back and then some, and now she's much more connected with her money than she was then. But she also writes about in the book going to cocktail parties with her friends and bringing up the topic of money, and people were like, they sort of avoided the conversation, and they went back to eating their salsa and chips and didn't want to talk about money. Make it okay, women, to talk about money and investing with your friends so that we can get rid of the shame and we can dissolve these barriers so that they no longer exist for us, so that we can take care of ourselves and we can take care of our future selves. It's critical. It really, really is. Okay, let's move on. All right. Talking about harebrained investments, right? Rather than focus on having a winning investment portfolio from the get-go, focus on your process, the consistent steps you need to take to become a confident investor and to invest with success. And that means dedicating 5 to 10 minutes every single day to learning something about money so that you understand what the difference is between stocks and bonds, so that you understand what mutual funds and ETFs are, so you understand what risks are there in a property investment, so that you don't make some of the silly mistakes that I've made and so that other people make. And then again, even if you do make a mistake, it's okay. Let's just let it go. Somebody tagged me in a Facebook group this morning and asked me what I thought about Bitcoin. A lot of people have invested in Bitcoin. I imagine that a lot of people have made money, but there are a lot of people that got in with the hype because it was so exciting, and in the last year they've actually lost the money, either that their gains they've lost, or anything that they put in at the high of the market, and then they've lost it. So spend some time. Yael is asking, once you have a basic understanding, then what? Then you jump. Yael. You have to leap. You have to be willing to leap and to put some money into the markets and see how it goes, because once you're paying attention, then you're going to be connected with your money. And there are low-cost ways of doing that. Unfortunately, for those of us living in Israel, and most of the women on this call are in Israel, unfortunately, there are not low-cost ways of doing it here. I wish there were. We are a little bit behind most of the Western world in the lack of low-cost alternatives. I wish there was a way that we could put in 100 shekels a month into investing. You can do it through a mutual fund through your bank, but as a U.S. citizen, if you're a dual U.S.-Israeli citizen like I am, you can't do that because it has tax problems with the United States. But I'm not going to go into those specifics right now. I'm happy to talk with you about it separately after the webinar. Okay. So let's talk about the missing link, okay? And that is, I believe that money is not just something you do. You don't just earn, save, or invest. That's a thing you do. You don't just beat the stock market. You don't, money is more than just an activity. And money is not just something that you have, right? You don't have, although we do have $1 million, or we have an investment property, or ETFs or mutual funds that people have put into the chat box earlier in the webinar. But money is how you live your life on purpose and in alignment with your values. And this is something that most financial advisors are going to miss when you sit down and you talk with them. They want to know, how much risk can you take? And most of you probably have no clue how much risk you can take. But nobody's going to ask you, how do you want to use money in your life? How do you want to live your life on purpose? And how you're going to be able to use money to live in alignment with your values. And this was actually fascinating. I worked with a woman years ago. She and her husband were pre-retirement. And I gave her an exercise to do, which was to track her spending for 2 months. And she did that. And we talked about, are you living in alignment with your values? And this was a couple in their 60s. They didn't have any kids. And what she noticed was that she was spending more money on clothes that she wanted to. And after she and her husband passed away, what she really wanted to do was leave a lot of money to charity. And if you looked at this couple, you would never know that, you wouldn't think that they were living extravagantly. I don't think they were. We didn't meet in their house, so I don't know what their home looked like. But it was so clear to her what her values were and what the purpose of money was in her life, that she was willing to shift and she was willing to change up the way that she was doing things so that she could live in alignment with her values and use her money on purpose. So I love this diagram here. The missing link when it comes to money is our values. And we need to use our money to take care of both our present self and our future self. And it's a little bit of a tug of war, but we have to make sure that whenever we're designing a holistic system to deal with our money, we're using our money in both of these ways. And when we do that, we're going to get our systems and our strategies in place, which means making sure that you have your monthly budget set up and your annual budget set up, and you have a tracking system, you have an investment system, you have a consistent routine, and you also have your mindset locked in so that you have the confidence to know that you can do this and it's okay to do this. And even more so, this is how you have to use and how you want to use money in your life so that it no longer becomes this living paycheck to paycheck type of situation. And you're using, you're not going to have money for your future self. It's never going to be like, and this is what people say, oh, Debbie, what's a good investment? How can I make the most money? It's not how can you make the most money. It's how can I create, some wealth for the future so that I can take care of myself. And when I work with my clients, I ask them, as I said, what values are important to you and what are you working on this year? And we do shift our values over time. When you're young, thrills and experience might be, and great experiences might be something that's important to you, but that might not be so important to you later in life. And this is a list that I've had with my clients just this week. Okay, safety and security are values. Family is a value. Chesed, for those of you who don't speak Hebrew, the acts of loving kindness, charity, making a difference in your community or in the world, those are values. Travel, fun, experience, health and well-being, peace of mind. A lot of folks, especially as they get into their 50s and 60s, they want the peace of mind that their money's in order and they're not going to be a burden to their kids. And self-care. And actually I added self-care in the end. None of my clients said that this week, but I look at taking care of your money as the ultimate act of self-care, because when you take care of your money, you reduce your stress, you reduce your anxiety, you make sure that you have your finances in order so that you're going to be safe and secure in the future. You can take care of your family, you can make an impact and a difference in the world. You can do all of the things once you make sure that you have that system and the strategies set up to take care of your money. And I know that you guys can do this. You know, even if you've been finding that that jargon and lingo and having to know all the things has been a barrier to entry to you for investing, I know 100% that we women can do this, because when we're challenged with our kids, let's say you have a kid who's just been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD or something like that, like, we learn what we need to learn at the moment. You know, when my husband was sick with cancer 16, 17 years ago, like, I had never known anything about cancer, whether it was, I didn't know what a, you know, seminoma, non-seminoma cancer cells were, but you better believe it, I figured out what it was at that time. And by the way, he's healthy, he's fine. You know, we don't even deal with it anymore. It was a long time ago. But I had enough knowledge and understanding about the cancer that he had, that, and there was what I was reading on the internet showed me that there were like different approaches, and I was able to use my knowledge to make cold email calls. I reached out to 3 different doctors, one in the US, I think Canada and Europe, if I remember correctly, and I asked them for their opinion on his treatment course. So I know that we can learn the things that we need to learn when it's important enough. And when you connect money with your values, it becomes important enough for you to make the time to learn something and to put some money into investments for your long-term safety, security, for your family, for your health, for your well-being, and for your peace of mind. All right. I'm going to, oh, I love this. I found this yesterday when I was scrolling through pictures in my Facebook. I was like, oh, this is apropos. Success doesn't come from what you do occasionally. Success comes from what you do consistently. And that's what I am encouraging you, maybe even prodding you to do with your money, is to be consistent about how you do it and to stay in alignment with your values. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment and ask you if you have any questions, and then I'm going to take the opportunity to share with you, you know, if you'd like some more information about how you can go on with your investments, how you can actually do that. And let me just stop and ask you if you have any questions. If you have them, go ahead and put them in the chat box. I'm going to take a sip of water. All right, no questions for the moment. Okay. Many of you will sit, Chai Bluma says she's a bit discouraged since there aren't low-cost investment options. Right, you don't have them in Israel, Chai Bluma, but as an American citizen, I do believe that you can have low-cost, low-entry options outside of Israel, and I'm happy to talk to you about that individually after the webinar. What was I going to say? All right. If low cost means if there are mutual funds, exchange traded funds, also known as ETFs, which as a US citizen you can access for very, very low fees through investment managers outside of Israel. Okay, oh, Hannah's not a US citizen. Okay, so you have to tell me which countries you're Canada. So I don't think you can actually have access to them in Canada, but in Israel, you can buy mutual funds through your bank, and you can do it in small amounts, and you can even do something called a kupat gemel lahashka'a, which I'm happy to talk to you about after the call. And that's a great way for you to get started in Israel. And you can even invest up to 70,000 shekels per year in a kupat gemel lahashka'a through a pension and insurance advisor. You could do that. And if you learn a little bit about investing, then you will be able to have a greater understanding of what your advisor offers you, and you'll be able to make some good decisions for the long-term growth of your money. All right. Some of you are going to listen to the webinar and you're going to say, that's it, I got it, I'm very enthusiastic, and I'm ready to go and take more control with my money. Yeah, Janice, you would need to open your own kupat gemel lahashka'a, and don't get your husband involved in it, because those Americans like myself, we make problems for our British spouses. My husband's also English. Yeah, so keep it separate. Keep it separate. All right. But maybe your husband can do something in the United States, and that would be a great way for you guys to combine your resources, to divide and conquer. If you're ready to go and do it by yourself, that's great. What I often find is a lot of people get off of a webinar, they're excited, they're motivated, they're ready to do it, and then, as we said, we're going to run out of time in our day, and all the other things that are going to, all the other fires that we need to fight are going to come, and we're going to lose this enthusiasm about investment. So what I would like to do is to share with you, many of you know, and maybe some of you don't know, that I am in the process of writing a book. I actually wrote the book. I'm in the process of publishing my book. Okay, it's called The 1K Investor: Simple, Smart Steps to Start Investing with $1,000 or Less. The book is available through Kickstarter. I'm running a Kickstarter campaign to help me publish the book, and I've written it in a very friendly and approachable style. I hope that you feel from this webinar that my approach is friendly and it's approachable. And by working through the book, both reading it and doing the exercises, there are some journaling exercises in the book, you'll feel less intimidated and more confident about investing. I go into all the steps about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, history of the market, so that you understand that actually over the very long term, the stock market is an incredibly safe place to put your money, because it will grow, or has grown over 100 years plus. It's grown by an average of 9, 10, 11% per year. So if you have that long-term horizon, stocks can be a great and low-cost way for you to grow your money. I talk about your money history and your mindset, and so many of us have been put off by investing because A, we didn't learn about it, B, because maybe our parents fought about money, or it was just very secretive. And so you just don't want to deal with it. But, it goes into the difference between savings and investing, and I talk about different investing options. And I encourage you, if you need a little bit more help to get going with your investments, and go ahead and buy the book. I put the link at the top of the slide here. It is case sensitive, so investor and book do actually need capital I and capital B. Thank you, David, for putting that in there. Right, investment options for Americans living in Israel other than ETFs. So yeah, I'll be happy to have a call with you after the webinar. There are other options, but I have to get through the rest of my slides in 2 minutes, or maybe 3 or 4 minutes. So I'll be happy, reach out to me after the call. Joyce, yes, you can purchase the book through a credit card at that link. Okay, if you would like a little bit more help with your investments, if you go into the Kickstarter campaign, there are different pledge levels to support the book. The first one is $15 plus shipping and handling, by the way. The second level for $247 is the book, plus I have an 8-week online course. It's a self-study course. More than 80 women have already been through this course, and it has had a lot of very positive feedback. And you can get the book and the course. There's live Q&A calls with the course, Investing Made Simple, and you get a lot of support from me and from the other women in the group. And we are starting on February 4th, Monday, February 4th, with a live round where I'll be in the Facebook group all the time, giving you a lot of support, and you can ask questions. And this is a quote from one of my previous students. My biggest realization and relief is that investing doesn't have to be massively time-consuming, and I don't have to know everything about it. And that answers one of the questions we had earlier on the webinar, is I don't know enough. And you know what? You don't need to know all the things, and you don't need to be a rocket science to get started. The course, Hannah, is self-study, so you can go in, you can listen to the pre-recorded videos anytime you want, and I do live Q&As at different times of the day. So it could be once in the morning in Israel and once in the evening in Israel, different times of the week. And it goes on for 8 weeks. So with the exception of the day or the few days surrounding my son's wedding, I should be, very, very available all through February and March as women work through the course. Okay. Now, if you feel like you need a little bit more support, then, oh no, that's somebody's tax return. You're not supposed to get that. Sorry, wrong slide. Oops. Oh no, you didn't see that. That was in my other computer, because I'm looking at 2 computers at once. If you need a little bit more support, then you can get both the book, and you can get the course Investing Made Simple, and you can get some one-on-one time with me. And that you can also purchase through the Kickstarter campaign. And for $9.97, you will get five sessions with me, one-on-one, 1-hour sessions. And those are the options that I'm offering you today. And if you have any questions, so please feel free to come into the chat box and ask me questions. Oh dear, did you guys lose the, I think I lost the share screen. Sorry about that. So if you have any questions, please come into the chat box and ask me questions. I'm here and I would love to be able to answer any of your questions. If you have any questions about the Kickstarter campaign or how you can get access to the book, Israeli credit cards should work, American credit cards should work, and I'll be happy to stay around for another 5 or 10 minutes and answer any questions that anybody has. I'll even put my video back on so that we can see each other. Tali, thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed the webinar. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Yeah, you're welcome. I hope you got your questions answered. Bye, Anna. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right. Thank you, Aviva. Thank you so much for being here. Anybody else have any questions? Okay, if you have any more questions, great. Ami, thank you so much. Janice says, after this time, I'm not sure what your question is. The chat box is going pretty fast, Janice. So if you have any questions, please feel free to, you know where to find me. You can reach out to me. Yeah, I'll reach out to me and I'll be happy to schedule a time to call. Ami says, what's the next step? Ami, you can, with pleasure, go into the Kickstarter campaign and support the book. As I said, if you want only the book, you can get the book for $15 plus handling, shipping and handling. And Janice says, when will I be offering the book again after this time? Is that your question, or when will I be offering the course? The course is going to have a live round in February. The videos are yours all the time, so you can go in and you can sign up now and you can do the course in March, April, May, any time of the year. The next round of the live course, I'm not sure when it's going to happen. It probably won't happen till the spring or till the summer, because after these months, we know that we're going to end up with Pesach in April, so it's not going to happen. Probably till the summer. And as I said in the very beginning of the webinar, I am currently revising the way my Smart Women Build Wealth course is happening. And I might end up doing something that incorporates all of the different educational, money education things that I do and the way that I support women. So I can't give you an answer on that at the moment. Okay? But the recordings are all yours forever. All right, any other questions? All right. Thank you very, very much to everybody who's been with me today and tuned into the webinar. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me privately. I would love to figure out how to support you in the best way possible so that you can grow your wealth and become a confident investor. Thank you so much. Bye.